The grand chamber of Galactic Council Station Omega-7 floated in the darkness of space, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of distant stars. Inside, representatives from 47 different species gathered for their quarterly meeting. The chamber was enormous, with floating platforms that held delegates from worlds scattered across the galaxy. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few were made of pure energy. They all came together to discuss trade, resolve disputes, and maintain the fragile peace that held their civilization together. Ambassador Soren of Valthar stood at the center platform. His insectoid body was ancient, over 300 years old, and his compound eyes could see every delegate in the room at once. He had led this council for 70 years, and in all that time, one seat had remained empty. The seat marked with Earth's designation, Sector 371b Sol System. It had been vacant for 250 years. Ji-Won Kim stepped out of the transport shuttle and took her first breath of station air. She was 43 years old, with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and a calm expression that revealed nothing. Behind her came Minho Park 31, a military officer whose hand never strayed far from his sidearm. Dr. Hana Lee followed them both, a woman of 56 with gray hair and a mind that had solved problems most species never even understood existed. They walked through the docking bay in silence. Alien workers stopped their tasks to stare. Word had already spread through the station like wildfire. Humanity had returned. After 2.5 centuries of absolute silence, Earth had sent representatives to the Galactic Council. In the council chamber, chaos erupted when the message came through. 3 human vessels had emerged from hyperspace at the edge of council space. They transmitted a simple message. Humanity requests an audience with the Galactic Council. We are ready to speak. General Thrax of the Korgal Empire slammed his massive fist on his platform. He was reptilian, 3 meters tall, with scales like armor plates and eyes that burned with constant aggression. "This is a trick," he roared. The humans went silent because they were weak. They probably destroyed themselves with their own weapons. These are imposters. Diplomat Lissa of Endara floated on her platform, her body made of shimmering energy. "Or perhaps they simply needed time," she said, her voice like wind chimes. "We should hear what they have to say." Ambassador Soren raised one of his front legs for silence. "The Council will grant their request. Prepare for their arrival. We will finally learn why Earth chose isolation over membership." The history was known to every species in the galaxy. 250 years ago, the Galactic Council had made first contact with humanity. Earth was a young species just beginning to explore beyond their own solar system. The Council had offered them membership, as they did with all new spacefaring civilizations. Junior membership, naturally. New species always started at the bottom, learning from their elders, following the rules that had kept galactic civilization stable for thousands of years. But humanity had surprised everyone. They asked for time to review the Council's laws and treaties. The Council agreed, expecting quick acceptance. Instead, Earth's leaders studied every document, every law, every treaty for 6 months. Then they sent their response. It was brief and polite. "Thank you for your offer. We respectfully decline. Earth will remain independent." Then they had done something unprecedented. Every human ship returned to their solar system. Around their sun, they built a defensive barrier unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. No signals could penetrate it. No ships could enter. Earth sealed itself away from the rest of the universe and went completely silent. The Council had debated for years about what to do. Some wanted to break through the barrier by force. Others counseled patience. In the end, they simply waited. Most assumed humanity had destroyed itself. Species that isolated usually did. Without trade, without technology sharing, without the protection of the Council, most civilizations collapsed within a few generations. But now they were back. Ji-Won, Minho, and Hana entered the Council chamber. Every eye, sensor, and perception organ in the room focused on them. They wore simple black uniforms with no visible weapons, no rank insignia, no decorations. They looked painfully ordinary compared to the exotic aliens surrounding them. Ambassador Soren spoke first. "Humans of Earth, after 250 years, you returned to us. The Council would know why you chose isolation and why you choose to speak now." Ji-Won stepped forward. Her voice was clear and calm. "We appreciated the Council's offer 2.5 centuries ago. We truly did. But when we reviewed your civilization, we found things that troubled us deeply. Murmurs spread through the chamber. General Thrax leaned forward, interested now. Your system operates on hierarchy, Jiwan continued. Senior species hold power. Junior species serve them. Technology is shared only with those deemed worthy. Rights are determined by which species you belong to. We saw wars over resources. We saw species treated as property. We saw a system that maintains itself through inequality. These systems have kept peace for millennia, Ambassador Soren replied. Order requires structure. Perhaps, Jiwan said. But we found it unacceptable. We could not join a system built on foundations we considered unjust. But we also could not change you. You had to want to change yourselves. So you ran away, General Thrax growled. You hid behind your wall like cowards. Minho's expression didn't change, but his hand moved slightly closer to his side. Not ran away, Jiwan said. We went silent to evolve. We refused to join a broken system when we could build something better. For 250 years, humanity worked. We solved our own problems. We ended war among ourselves. We cured disease. We conquered aging. We achieved what your council considers impossible, a truly equal society. Dr. Hana Lee activated a holographic display. It showed Earth's solar system, now ringed with stations and cities. It showed technological advances that made several council members gasp. Fusion energy that the council had struggled with for centuries, quantum computing beyond anything they possessed, genetic optimization, consciousness transfer, technologies that some species were forbidden to research. This is impossible, Councillor Vex of Morath said. His crystalline body flickered with confusion. No single species advances this far in such a short time. We did, Hana said simply. Because we worked together. Every human, regardless of where they were born or what they believed. No hierarchy. No restricted knowledge. Everyone contributing to a shared future. What do you want from us? Ambassador Soren asked quietly. Jiwan looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from species who had never known anything but the Council's way. We want to share what we've built. Our technology, our knowledge, our methods. We offer them freely to any species that wants them. We ask for nothing in return except one thing. Recognize that all sapient beings deserve equal rights and equal opportunities. The chamber exploded with noise. Some species cheered. Others shouted in anger. General Thrax stood, his voice booming over the chaos. You insult us. You claim to surpass us all. You offer charity like we are primitives. Prove your superiority, humans. Our warrior caste has never been defeated. Send your champion to fight mine. The chamber fell silent. A challenge had been issued. In council tradition, it could not be refused. Minho stepped forward. I accept. Jiwan didn't stop him. She simply nodded. Hana looked at the assembled council and smiled slightly. You want proof? Tomorrow you'll have it. When Captain Park enters that arena, you'll understand what 250 years of human evolution really means. Everything is about to change. The session adjourned in chaos. As the delegates filed out, arguing amongst themselves, Ambassador Soren remained on his platform, looking at the empty space where the humans had stood. In 300 years of life, he had seen many things. But something in the way those humans carried themselves, the absolute certainty in their voices, troubled him deeply. They weren't bluffing. Whatever humanity had become in their isolation, tomorrow the galaxy would see it clearly, and Soren suspected that nothing would ever be the same again. The combat arena filled with spectators an hour before dawn. Representatives from every species on the station crowded into viewing platforms, eager to see if humanity's claims were more than empty words. The arena itself was a massive sphere, 50 meters in diameter, with energy shields that could contain even nuclear explosions. It had hosted thousands of combat challenges over the centuries, and blood from 100 different species had been spilled on its floor. Minho Park stood in the preparation chamber, stretching slowly. He wore the same black uniform from yesterday, no armor, no visible weapons. Jiwan and Hana stood with him, but none of them looked worried. Are you certain about this? Jiwan asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Minho smiled slightly. They need to see. Words won't convince them. This will. Across the arena, General Thrax watched his champion prepare. Commander Brack was everything the Korgul prized in a warrior. 3 meters of pure muscle covered in natural armor plating. Cybernetic enhancements in his arms and legs that let him move faster. than any organic being should. Plasma weaponry integrated into his forearm guards. He had fought in 50 campaigns and never lost a single combat. He had killed opponents with his bare hands and torn apart war machines with his strength alone. "The human looks weak," Brack growled, checking his weapons. "I will end this quickly." "Do not underestimate them," Thrax warned. "Something about them is different. Be cautious." Brack laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "I am always cautious. That is why I have never lost." The arena master, a floating drone with multiple sensors, announced the rules. Combat until submission or incapacitation. Lethal force is permitted. Energy shields will contain the battle space. Are both champions ready? Minho walked into the arena, his movements relaxed and casual. Brack stomped in from the opposite side, each footstep shaking the ground. The size difference was absurd. Brack looked like he could tear the human in half without effort. Ambassador Soren watched from his private viewing platform. Beside him, Diplomat Lissa hummed with curiosity. "The human appears unconcerned. Either he is very brave or very foolish. We will know soon enough," Soren replied. The arena master's voice echoed through the sphere. "Begin!" Brack charged immediately. Despite his size, he moved with frightening speed, his cybernetically enhanced legs covering the distance in seconds. His arm cannon activated, firing plasma bolts that could vaporize steel. The shots flew straight toward Minho's chest. Minho didn't dodge. He didn't even seem to move. The plasma bolts passed through him as if he wasn't there. The crowd gasped. Brack skidded to a halt, confusion evident even on his reptilian face. He fired again, 3 more shots in rapid succession. Again they passed through Minho harmlessly. The human's body had become translucent, almost ghost-like. "Fascinating," Dr. Hana Lee said from the viewing platform, though she knew exactly what was happening. "He's phase-shifting at the molecular level. The plasma can't harm him if he's not fully in this dimension." Brack roared in frustration and charged again, this time attempting to tackle the human physically. His massive arms reached out to grab Minho. This time Minho did move. He simply stepped aside, but the speed was impossible. One moment he was in Brack's path, the next he was 3 meters to the left. Brack crashed into the arena wall hard enough to crack the reinforced material. The Korgel champion spun around, breathing heavily now. "What are you?" Minho's expression remained calm. "I'm human, but not the kind of human you expected." He began to walk in a circle around Brack, speaking clearly so his voice carried to every spectator. 250 years ago, our species achieved complete genetic optimization. Every human alive today has been enhanced at the cellular level. We can phase shift to avoid attacks. We can move faster than most species can perceive. Our strength and durability are enhanced to the theoretical limits of biology. Brack fired again, this time while Minho was talking. The plasma bolt should have been impossible to avoid at such close range. Minho caught it. His hand was solid again, and somehow he had grabbed the bolt of superheated plasma out of the air. He held it for a moment, the energy crackling in his palm, then dispersed it harmlessly. "We can also interface directly with technology through neural implants," Minho continued. "Watch." He didn't move, didn't gesture, but suddenly all of Brack's cybernetic systems shut down. The lights in his arm cannons died. His enhanced leg servos went limp. The Korgul warrior stumbled, suddenly carrying the full weight of his body without mechanical assistance. "Your cybernetics run on a standard Korgul military network," Minho explained. "I just disconnected them. I could turn them back on, or I could overload them and blow out every system in your body. But I won't. This isn't about killing you. It's about showing what's possible." Brack roared and charged again, relying on his natural strength alone. He was still formidable, still dangerous. His clawed hand swept toward Minho's head with enough force to decapitate most beings. Minho ducked under the blow, then moved in close. He placed one hand on Brack's chest and pushed. The 3-meter Korgul warrior, weighing over 400 kilograms, flew backward across the arena and crashed into the far wall. The impact left a dent in the reinforced metal. Brack slumped down, not unconscious but clearly stunned. Minho walked over to him and extended his hand. "I could have ended this in the first second. I'm fast enough, strong enough. But that's not why I accepted your challenge. Humanity doesn't fight to prove dominance. We're demonstrating what becomes possible when a species dedicates itself to improvement instead of conquest." Brack stared at the offered hand for a long moment. Then slowly he reached up and grasped it. Mino pulled him to his feet with one arm, making the massive warrior look weightless. The arena master's voice was uncertain. "Commander Brack, do you submit?" Brack looked down at the human who barely reached his chest. "I submit. I have never faced anything like this." The crowd exploded into chaos. Some species cheered. Others shouted in anger or fear. The Korgal delegation stood and walked out, General Thrax's expression unreadable. Back in the council chamber, emergency session was called. Delegates demanded explanations, technology answers. Some accused humanity of creating super soldiers, violating galactic ethics laws. Others begged for the enhancement technology immediately. Ambassador Soren called for order, his voice cutting through the noise. "Silence! All of you!" When the chamber finally quieted, he looked at Jiwon. "Commander Kim, if humanity has advanced so far beyond the rest of us, what do you truly want?" Jiwon stood calmly despite hundreds of alien eyes fixed on her. "We want what we said yesterday. To share what we've built. Not as conquerors, not as rulers. We've solved the problems that plague most civilizations. We've ended aging, cured diseases, eliminated scarcity. We achieved post-conflict civilization. But we've been watching you. We've seen the suffering continue out here. Wars over resources, species enslaved, rights denied based on biology. We stayed silent because we weren't ready to help. Now we are. Help?" A delegate from the hegemony fleet spoke up. "You show us weapons and abilities we cannot match, then call it help? This looks like intimidation." Hana Lee stepped forward. "Then you're not paying attention. Captain Park didn't kill Commander Brack. He didn't hurt him at all despite having every opportunity. He demonstrated capability, yes, but also restraint. That's the point. Power without control is just violence. We've learned to be better than that." "Pretty words," another delegate called out. "But why should we trust you?" "You shouldn't," Minho said simply, emerging from the arena access tunnel. "Not yet. Trust is earned. We're offering you the chance to learn that we mean what we say, accept our technology or don't. Join us in building something better or stay as you are. The choice is yours." Ambassador Soren was about to respond when Dr. Hana Lee's personal device chimed urgently. Her expression changed as she read the message, color draining from her face. She looked at Ji-won, then at the assembled council. "We have a bigger problem," Hana said quietly, but her voice carried in the sudden silence. "Our long-range monitoring systems have detected something we've been tracking for 30 years and hoped we had more time to prepare for." "What are you talking about?" Soren demanded. Ji-won's expression hardened. "During our isolation, Earth built an extensive network of deep space sensors. We've been monitoring threats beyond council space. 3 decades ago, we detected anomalies, mass movements of ships, entire star systems going dark. We've been building our defenses against what we found, hoping we'd have more time before it reached you." "Before what reached us?" Diplomat Lisa asked, her energy form flickering with concern. Hana activated a holographic display. It showed a map of the galaxy with council space marked in blue. From the outer edges, red markers were moving inward. There were dozens of them, each one representing a massive contact. "We call them the Devourers," Hana explained. "Silicon-based machine intelligence, completely hostile to organic life. They don't communicate, they don't negotiate, they don't take prisoners. They consume entire biospheres for raw materials and energy. We've been preparing to fight them. We were hoping to build up the Council's defenses first, to share our technology gradually, but we've just received new data." She expanded the display. 3 Council worlds in Sector 920 have gone silent in the past 6 hours. No distress calls. No escape ships. Just silence. The Devourers aren't coming. They're already here. The council chamber erupted in panic. Delegates shouted questions, demands, accusations. Some blamed humanity for bringing this threat. Others demanded protection immediately. General Thrax returned to the chamber, his earlier humiliation forgotten. "How long do we have?" Ji-won looked at him directly. "Our initial projection said 3 months. But if they're already hitting our space, those projections were wrong. We need to mobilize the entire council fleet immediately. Every world needs to prepare evacuations, and you need to decide right now whether you're going to accept our help or try to face this alone." Ambassador Soren felt the weight of centuries pressing down on him. 300 years of life, and he had never faced a decision like this. Accept help from humans who had just demonstrated they were beyond anything the council could match, or maintain pride and face an unknown threat without them. Council will vote, he announced. All in favor of accepting human assistance and technology to face this threat. The vote was not unanimous, but it passed. As delegates began coordinating emergency responses, Hana pulled Jiwan aside. Her expression was grim. There's more. The latest sensor data just came through. The Devourers aren't 3 months away. They're accelerating. First wave arrives in 3 weeks, and there are more of them than our initial counts estimated. Many more, Jiwan closed her eyes briefly. How many more? Enough that even we might not be able to stop them all. 3 weeks passed faster than anyone wanted. The Galactic Council station transformed from a place of debate into a military command center. The grand chamber where delegates had argued about trade agreements now displayed tactical maps and fleet positions. Holographic screens showed evacuation numbers and defensive preparations across 47 different worlds. Jiwan had barely slept in those 3 weeks. She coordinated with Admiral Suji Choi, who commanded Earth's military fleet, and tried to bring the Council's chaotic military forces into some kind of organized defense. It was like herding cats. If the cats all spoke different languages and had spent centuries distrusting each other, the Korgul want to launch a preemptive strike, Suji reported through the holographic communicator. She was 42, with sharp features and eyes that calculated probabilities constantly. They think waiting for the Devourers to reach us is cowardice. Tell General Thrax that charging into unknown territory against an enemy we don't fully understand is called suicide. Not courage, Jiwan replied tiredly. We fight from prepared positions or we die. On Earth's orbital platforms, technician Daeho Shin was 24 years old and considered a genius even among enhanced humans. He worked with a team of council scientists, trying to retrofit their ships with human technology. It was frustrating work. Most species use technology that was centuries behind Earth's current level. This power coupling won't work, Daeho explained to a Valthari engineer for the 5th time. Your ship's energy grid can't handle the quantum weapons. We need to completely rebuild your power systems. We don't have time for complete rebuilds, the engineer replied, frustration evident in his translated speech. Then your weapons will overload and destroy your own ship the first time you fire them, Daeho said bluntly. Your choice. Spend 2 days on upgrades now, or die in 2 seconds during the battle. The engineer reluctantly agreed to the rebuild. Reports from Sector 920 grew worse daily. 7 worlds now showed no signs of life. Scout ships sent to investigate never returned. The few automated probes that got close enough transmitted images that made even battle-hardened warriors look away. The Devourers didn't just kill. They harvested. Entire cities stripped down to bare rock. Oceans drained. Atmospheres consumed. Nothing remained but dead, stripped planets. In the council chamber, Captain Yuna Han appeared via hologram. She commanded Earth's deep space monitoring network, stationed at the edge of the solar system. She was 38, with an intensity that made people uncomfortable. She never joked, never small-talked, just delivered information with mechanical precision. Updated contact analysis, Yuna announced without preamble. We've identified the Devourer command structure. The fleet operates on a hive mind principle, coordinated through quantum entanglement. Individual ships have limited autonomy. The command vessel controls overall strategy and tactics. Can we target this command vessel? General Thrax asked. He had been cooperative since the arena combat, his pride swallowed in the face of extinction. Theoretically, yes, Yuna replied, but it will be protected by hundreds of other ships. Getting close enough to destroy it would require a suicide mission. Ambassador Soren absorbed this information. At 300 years old, he had thought he knew everything the galaxy could throw at him. He was wrong. What are our chances if we face them in open combat? Dr. Hana Lee pulled up simulation results. Based on current readiness, the Council fleet would be destroyed within 6 hours. Our combined forces with Earth's fleet extends that to maybe 14 hours. The Devourers have numbers, superior armor, and no fear of death because they're not truly alive. They'll overwhelm us through attrition, so we cannot win, Diplomat Lissa said quietly, her energy form dimming with despair. I didn't say that, Hana replied. I said we can't win through direct combat alone. We need strategy. We need to fight smart, not just hard. The plan came together over frantic days and sleepless nights. Humans worked alongside Council military planners, combining Earth's technology with local knowledge of the sector. 3 defensive lines would be established around the Terres system, where the Council station orbited. Thousands of quantum disruption mines would create kill zones. Mixed human-alien fleet groups would provide flexible response. And if the Devourers broke through, evacuated civilians would already be moving to safer systems deeper in Council space. It wasn't perfect. It probably wasn't enough, but it was all they had. On the 18th day, the Devourers arrived. The sensor alerts came at 400 station time, hundreds of massive contacts emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the Terra system, then hundreds more. The numbers kept climbing. By the time the fleet fully materialized, over 3,000 Devourer vessels filled the long-range scans. "Ancestors protect us," Ambassador Soren whispered. In 3 centuries, he had never seen anything like it. The Devourer ships were nightmares made real. Kilometers long, covered in harvesting appendages and weapon arrays. Their hulls seemed to be made of dark metal that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. They moved with horrible purpose toward the inner system, toward Terrace, toward the station where thousands of delegates and millions of civilians waited. Admiral Suji Choi stood on the bridge of the human flagship, the Rising Phoenix. Around her, 2,400 human warships waited in formation. They looked small compared to the approaching swarm, but each one packed weapons that could crack planets. "All ships battle stations," Suji ordered calmly. "First and second defensive lines prepare to engage. Third line hold position until my command." Beside the human fleet, 200 Council warships took position. They had been retrofitted with human weapons, their crews hastily trained in new tactics. Warlord Kresh commanded the Korgel contingent personally, his flagship bristling with plasma cannons and missile batteries. For all species, Kresh transmitted to the combined fleet. For survival. The first wave of Devourers crossed into the outer kill zone. Thousands of quantum disruption mines activated simultaneously. The space itself seemed to tear apart as matter was forcibly decoherent at the quantum level. 50 Devourer vessels simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the molecular level. But the rest kept coming. "Engage," Suji commanded. The human fleet opened fire. Beams of coherent quantum energy lanced through space, punching through Devourer hulls that should have been impenetrable. Dimensional missiles phased through shields and exploded inside enemy vessels. The Council ships added their firepower, plasma, and kinetic weapons, hammering at the swarm. Space became a light show of destruction. Devourer ships exploded, spilling debris and strange mechanical fluids. But for every enemy destroyed, 2 more advanced. Their return fire was devastating. Beams of unknown energy cut through shields. Projectiles that seemed to be made of compressed neutron star material punched through even enhanced hulls. "Phoenix Actual, we've lost 12 ships," a tactical officer reported. 34 damaged. "Maintain formation," Suji replied. "All groups execute pattern Delta 7. The human ships began weaving through space in coordinated patterns, never staying in one place long enough to become easy targets. It was a dance they had practiced for years, anticipating this exact scenario. The Council ships tried to follow but couldn't match the precision. Several took heavy fire. On the Council station, Jiwon watched the battle unfold on holographic displays. Each blinking light that disappeared represented hundreds of lives lost. She felt every loss like a physical blow. "They're overwhelming the first line," Hana reported. "Casualties at 15% and rising." "Pull them back to the second defensive line," Jiwon ordered. "We can't afford to lose everyone in the first engagement." Minho stood beside her, already in combat gear. "I should be out there." "You will be," Jiwon replied. "For the strike mission. We're going to need you alive for that." The strike mission was the desperate gambit at the center of their plan. While the fleet held the Devourer's attention, a small team would infiltrate the command vessel and destroy it. Without coordination, the enemy fleet would lose cohesion. Maybe. "They're adapting," Yunahan reported from her monitoring station. "The Devourers are analyzing our tactics in real time. They're learning how we fight." "Of course they are," Deho muttered. He was analyzing Devourer technology from sensor data, trying to find weaknesses. Their machine intelligence. "They process and adapt faster than biological minds. We need to change tactics constantly or they'll predict everything we do." The battle raged for 6 hours. The first defensive line collapsed despite fierce resistance. 40 human ships destroyed, 78 Council vessels gone. The second line held better, reinforced by the survivors of the first, but the casualties kept mounting. Warlord Kresh's flagship was badly damaged but still fighting. "Humans!" he transmitted. "Your weapons are strong, but there are too many. We need reinforcements." "There are no reinforcements," Suji replied grimly. "This is everything we have." Then the Devourers did something unexpected. They stopped advancing. The massive fleet, which had been pushing forward relentlessly, halted just outside the second defensive line, thousands of ships holding position in perfect formation. "What are they doing?" Ambassador Soren asked. Hana's eyes widened as she studied the sensor data. "They're learning. Analyzing our defenses. They're going to adapt their tactics based on everything they've learned so far. When they attack again, they'll be ready for everything we've thrown at them." "How long do we have?" Jiwon asked. "Hours, maybe less." Minho checked his equipment one final time. "Then we launch the strike mission now before they're ready. We won't get another chance." Jiwon wanted to argue, wanted to find another way, but there wasn't one. She nodded. "Assemble your team. You leave in 30 minutes. As Minho headed for the shuttle bay, Dr. Hana Lee pulled Jiwon aside. Her expression was haunted. "I've been analyzing the composition of those ships. They're not purely mechanical. There are organic components, neural tissue, biological processors. I think the Devourers aren't just machines. They're made from the species they've consumed. Every civilization they've destroyed is now part of their fleet, enslaved and repurposed." Jiwon felt sick. "You're saying they turn their victims into weapons?" "Yes. And if they defeat us, humanity and every council species will become part of their swarm. We won't just die. We'll become the very thing we're fighting against." Outside the station, the Devourer fleet began moving again. But this time, they came in a completely different formation, adapted to counter every defense the Allied forces had shown them. The final assault had begun. The stealth shuttle cut through space like a knife through darkness. Inside, Minho Park sat with his strike team, checking equipment one last time. 12 human special operators, 20 Korgal warriors including Commander Brack, and 5 specialists from the Praxian species, small beings who are experts in infiltration and stealth technology. 37 beings total, heading toward a vessel that held thousands of enemies. "Approaching Devourer command ship," the pilot announced quietly, cloaking systems holding. "They don't see us yet." Minho looked at his team. He had trained with the human operators for years. The Korgul and Praxians were strangers, but they had worked together frantically over the past 3 weeks. It would have to be enough. Commander Brack checked his weapon, a massive plasma rifle designed for his size and strength. "I never thought I would fight beside humans," he said quietly. "But I am glad you are here." "The feeling is mutual," Minho replied. "After this is over, we should spar again, without trying to kill each other this time." Brack's reptilian face managed something like a smile. "I would like that." Outside, the battle raged on. Admiral Suji Choi was everywhere at once, coordinating fleet movements, directing fire support, keeping the Devourers focused on the main engagement. Every minute the fleet held meant another minute for the strike team to reach their target. But the cost was terrible. Another 16 human ships gone. 43 council vessels destroyed. The Rising Phoenix herself had taken heavy damage, her port side scarred by Devourer weapons. But Suji's expression never wavered. She had known the cost going in. "Fleet elements execute fallback pattern echo," she commanded. "Draw them deeper into the kill zone. Make them pay for every meter." The Devourers pursued, adapting constantly. They had learned to avoid the quantum mines. Their fire patterns had adjusted to counter the human ship's movement patterns. They were still learning, still improving, and the Allied fleet was running out of tricks. On the council station, Jiwon watched multiple displays at once. The main battle. The strike team's progress. Evacuation reports from civilian populations. Her mind processed information faster than most beings could think. A benefit of human enhancement, but it still wasn't enough. There was too much happening. Too many moving pieces, and all of it could fall apart at any moment. "Strike team has reached the command vessel," Hana reported. "They're beginning infiltration." Minho led his team through the phase shift process. It was technology the Council had never seen before. The shuttle aligned its quantum signature with a section of the Devourer hull, and suddenly, 37 beings were passing through solid metal as if it wasn't there. They materialized inside the enemy vessel, in a corridor that looked like something from a nightmare. The walls were lined with organic components fused with machinery. Neural tissue integrated into processing units. What looked like bones supporting structural elements. The team saw faces trapped in the walls. Countless beings from species they recognized and some they didn't. Their consciousness enslaved and incorporated into the ship's systems. Ancestors, one of the Praxian specialists whispered. They're still aware, still conscious, trapped forever. Stay focused, Minho ordered, though his stomach turned. We have a mission. They moved deeper into the vessel. The Devourer ship was massive, over 5 kilometers long. They encountered defense systems almost immediately. Automated weapons emerged from walls, firing projectiles made of compressed matter. The team scattered, returning fire. 3 human operators went down in the first engagement, their bodies torn apart by weapons moving faster than sound. The Korgel roared and charged forward, their heavy armor absorbing hits that would have killed lighter species. They tore through the automated defenses with their bare hands when their weapons ran out. Keep moving, Minho shouted. We can't stop. They fought through corridor after corridor. The ship seemed to sense their presence, growing more defensive the deeper they penetrated. More automated systems activated. The walls themselves became hostile, extending appendages that grabbed at them with mechanical precision. 8 Korgel warriors fell, pulled into the walls where they were consumed and integrated into the ship's systems, their screams cut off abruptly, replaced by the mechanical sounds of processing. 2 Praxian specialists were killed by weapons fire. The team pushed forward, leaving their dead behind because there was no other choice. How much farther? Brack demanded, blood streaming from wounds across his massive body. 200 meters to the central core, one of the human operators replied, checking his scanner. We're close. They reached a massive chamber at the heart of the ship. The quantum core rose before them, a sphere 20 meters across, pulsing with sickly light. Around it, processing arrays stretched in every direction, and trapped within the arrays were beings, thousands of them. Their bodies integrated into the machinery, their minds enslaved and repurposed to serve the Devourer collective. Set the charges, Minho ordered. We blow this core and the entire fleet loses coordination. As the team began placing quantum cascade bombs around the chamber, Dr. Hana Lee's voice came through on the communication channel. She had been analyzing the data streaming back from the strike team's scanners. Wait, Hana shouted. Don't detonate yet. I'm seeing something in the core composition. These aren't just slaves. They're conscious, fully aware. They've been trapped in there, forced to serve, but their minds are intact. Minho looked at the faces trapped in the processing arrays. Some of them looked back at him. He saw intelligence in their eyes, recognition, and an emotion he understood all too well. Hope. What are you suggesting? He asked. Our consciousness transfer technology, Hana replied quickly. It was designed to upload and download human minds. But the principles should work on any consciousness. Instead of destroying the core, we could liberate it, free the enslaved minds. They might turn on their captors. Might? Miho replied. You're not certain? Nothing is certain, Hana admitted. But these beings have been prisoners for who knows how long. Some of them might be from civilizations that were destroyed centuries ago. We could give them a choice. Freedom or continued slavery. Minho looked at his remaining team. 9 human operators, 12 Korgel warriors, 3 Praxians. They had come to destroy. But Hana was offering a different path. Captain, one of his operators said quietly, we didn't come here to be saviors. We came to complete the mission. Destroy the core, cripple the fleet. That's the plan. Plans change, Minho replied. He made his decision. Hana, walk me through the procedure. We're going to try this. Are you insane? Brack demanded. This could destroy us all. Yes, it could, Minho agreed. But we didn't come to the stars just to kill. We came to save lives, even ones that are already trapped. That's what being human means. That's what we're trying to teach the galaxy. He began setting up the consciousness transfer interface, connecting human technology to the alien quantum core. It was technology that had never been tested on this scale. It might free the trapped minds, or it might kill everyone in the chamber, or it might create something worse than the Devourers themselves. But as Minho worked, he thought about why humanity had spent 250 years in isolation. They had wanted to become better. Not just stronger or smarter, but truly better. And that meant taking risks when the lives of innocents hung in the balance. Interface connected, he announced. Initiating Consciousness Liberation Protocol. The quantum core began to pulse faster. The light grew brighter. Throughout the Devourer command vessel, Systems started to fail as processing power was diverted to the core. The faces trapped in the walls began to move, to struggle. On the main bridge of the Rising Phoenix, Admiral Suji Choi noticed something strange. The Devourer fleet is losing coordination, her tactical officer reported. Their formation is breaking up. Some ships are still attacking, but others are powering down. They're fighting amongst themselves. What did Minho do? Suji whispered. In the core chamber, the quantum sphere exploded with light, but it wasn't destruction. It was awakening. 1 billion enslaved consciousnesses suddenly remembered what they had been before. They remembered their homes, their families, their species. They remembered being murdered and consumed and forced to serve their killers, and they were very, very angry. Throughout the Devourer fleet, ships began to tear themselves apart from within. Enslaved minds seized control of the systems they had been forced to operate and turned those systems against their captors. Weapons fired on neighboring vessels. Engines overloaded. Quantum cores destabilized. Half the Devourer fleet simply shut down, their enslaved crew refusing to fight any longer. Others continued to attack, but with no coordination, no strategy. They had become dangerous but no longer unstoppable. All fleet elements advance, Suji commanded. Hit them now while they're disorganized! The Allied fleet surged forward. Human quantum weapons and council plasma cannons tore through enemy vessels that could no longer coordinate their defenses. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. In the core chamber, Minho fell to his knees, exhausted. The neural interface had been like touching the minds of 1 billion beings at once. It had nearly broken him. But he had done it. They had freed the slaves. Time to go, Brack said, helping him to his feet. This ship is coming apart. The strike team ran back through corridors that were collapsing around them. The Devourer command vessel was dying, its systems failing as freed consciousnesses sabotaged everything they could reach. The team barely made it back to their shuttle before the vessel began breaking apart. As they fled, Minho looked back at the dying ship. I hope we did the right thing, he said quietly. We gave them choice, one of his human operators replied. That's all anyone can do. The battle raged for another 8 hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. With their coordination broken and half their fleet turned against itself, the Devourers were defeated. Not destroyed, many ships still escaped into deep space, but they had been stopped. For the first time in their existence, they had encountered resistance they could not overcome. When the last enemy vessel retreated into hyperspace, Admiral Suji Choi allowed herself to breathe. They had won, but the cost had been terrible. 1,200 human ships destroyed, 136 council vessels gone. Over 400,000 lives lost across all species. On the council station, Jiwon received confirmation that Minho's team was safe. She allowed herself one moment of relief before returning to her duty. There was so much work to do. Wounded to treat, dead to honor, a civilization to rebuild. But they had proven something. Humans and aliens working together could achieve the impossible. They had faced extinction and survived. And they had done it not just through superior weapons, but through making a choice that prioritized life over destruction. Everything had changed. 1 year had passed since the battle. The Galactic Council station still orbited Terrace Prime, but it was different now. The Grand Chamber where delegates had once argued about trade disputes and territorial claims had been rebuilt. The new design held no hierarchy of platforms. Instead, representatives from every species sat at the same level, in a circle where everyone could see everyone else equally. Ambassador Soren stood at the center of that circle, his 300-year-old body showing signs of age but his voice still strong. The Coalition of Free Worlds recognizes the delegate from Praxis. You have the floor. Representative Nell was one of the small beings whose species had always been at the bottom of the old council's hierarchy. Now she spoke with confidence. The reconstruction of our homeworld is complete, thanks to human technology and Valthari engineering support. Our people vote to formally adopt the Coalition Charter. All sapient beings deserve equal rights, regardless of species origin or capability. The chamber erupted in approval. It was the 33rd world to fully join the new coalition in the past year. 14 more were in the process of transitioning their governments to meet coalition standards. In a medical facility on station, Dr. Hana Lee worked with a team of doctors from 12 different species. They were treating wounded from the battle who were still recovering. Human regeneration technology meant that injuries that would have been crippling under old galactic medicine could now be fully healed. A Korgal warrior who had lost both legs walked out of the facility on cloned replacements. A Valthari whose compound eyes had been destroyed could now see again through cybernetic implants, more advanced than their original biology. "This still feels strange," a young Enderan doctor said, watching a patient walk who should have been paralyzed. "We spent centuries accepting that certain injuries meant permanent disability. You humans have changed what's possible." "We just shared what we learned," Hana replied. "Your people would have developed this technology eventually. We just accelerated the timeline." Admiral Suji Choi commanded the Coalition Defense Fleet from a new flagship, the Unity. It was built using combined technology from 8 different species: human quantum drives, Korgal armor plating, Valthari sensor arrays, and Daran shield generators. The fleet itself was a testament to cooperation. 2,400 vessels from Earth worked alongside 1,800 ships from Council species, all of them upgraded and enhanced through technology sharing. She stood on the bridge reviewing patrol reports. The Devourers had not returned in force, but smaller groups were still detected occasionally in deep space. Each time, mixed species response teams engaged them. Each time they won, Admiral, her tactical officer, reported, "We're receiving a distress call from a civilian transport. They've encountered Devourer scouts in Sector 615. Dispatch Response Group 7, Suji ordered, and notify the Korgal contingent." I believe Warlord Kresh wanted to lead the next engagement. Kresh had become one of humanity's closest allies. The warrior who had once challenged them in the arena now fought beside them in every battle. His flagship bore scars from a dozen encounters with the Devourers, and he wore those scars with pride. Minho Park walked through the diplomatic training center on Earth. He had requested reassignment after the battle, wanting to work on building peace rather than fighting wars. Now he taught Council species about human culture, history, and philosophy. His students came from 30 different worlds, all of them eager to understand the mysterious humans who had changed everything. "The key to understanding humanity," he told his current class, "is that we're not special. Everything we achieved, you can achieve too. We just had the advantage of isolation. We could focus on solving problems without external pressure. But now we want to help you do the same." A young Valthari student raised one of her front legs. "But you are special. Your abilities, your technology, how can we ever match that?" Minho smiled. "You're asking the wrong question. It's not about matching us. It's about all of us moving forward together. We'll help you develop your own enhancements, your own technology, and you'll teach us things we never knew. Every species has unique perspectives and capabilities. The Coalition isn't about everyone becoming human. It's about everyone becoming better versions of themselves." On Earth itself, the solar system was no longer isolated. The defensive barrier that had sealed them away for 250 years was gone. Now the space around Earth teemed with ships from across the galaxy. Tourists came to see the legendary homeworld of humanity. Traders came to exchange goods and technology. Students came to learn at Earth's universities. In what had once been called the Korean Peninsula, a massive monument stood. It was built from materials donated by every species in the Coalition. The names of every being who had died stopping the Devourers were carved into its surface. Human names beside Korgal, names beside Valthari, names beside Praxian names. 400,000 individuals from 47 species remembered together without distinction. Commander Jiwon Kim visited the monument regularly. She had led the diplomatic mission that brought humanity back to the galaxy. She had coordinated the defense that saved civilization. Now she worked on the Coalition Council, helping guide the transition from the old hierarchical system to the new equal partnership. But today she came as a mourner. She placed a flower at the base of the monument, a simple white bloom from Earth. She read the names of her crew members who hadn't survived. Young men and women who had believed in humanity's mission enough to die for it. "Did we do the right thing?" a voice asked behind her. She turned to find Ambassador Soren. The old Valthari had aged noticeably in the past year. The strain of change had taken its toll. "We saved the galaxy," Jiwon replied. "Yes, we did the right thing. At what cost?" Soren gestured at the monument. 400,000 dead. Economies disrupted. Entire governmental systems dissolved. Species who had maintained the same social structures for millennia, forced to change. Was it worth it? Jiwon looked at him steadily. "Ask Representative Nell." Ask the Praxians and the other small species who spent centuries as second-class citizens. Ask the slaves who were freed when we abolished the legal frameworks that permitted their bondage. Ask the wounded who walk again because we shared our medical technology. Yes, change is hard, but oppression is harder. Soren was quiet for a long moment. You're right, of course, but I am old, Jiwan. I have lived 3 centuries watching the same systems, the same hierarchies. This new way of doing things terrifies me because I cannot predict where it leads. That's the point, Jiwan said gently. The old way was predictable because it was static. The same species always on top. The same species always at the bottom. That stability came at the cost of growth. The new way is unpredictable because everyone has the freedom to rise or fall based on their own merits. It's chaotic and frightening and wonderful. I hope you're right, Soren replied. I was offered the position of Supreme Coordinator. I'm not certain I should accept. Perhaps someone younger, more adaptable. Take the position, Jiwan said firmly. The Coalition needs someone who remembers what we're moving away from, someone who can guide us without nostalgia for the bad parts of the past. You're the right choice, Ambassador. Across the galaxy, change continued. Technician Daiho Shin worked with teams of engineers building new infrastructure. Quantum communication networks that let species across thousands of light years coordinate in real time. Energy production facilities based on fusion technology that could power entire planets without environmental damage. Medical centers equipped with the latest advances from every species pooled together. We're building something that's never existed before, Daiho told his team during a break. Not a human civilization, not a Korgal civilization. Something new. A truly integrated multi-species society. Do you think it will last? Asked a young Andaran engineer. Daiho shrugged. I don't know. But that's what makes it exciting. For the first time in galactic history, we're trying something that's never been attempted. Maybe we'll fail. But if we do, at least we failed trying to build something better. The Coalition faced challenges. Some species resisted the changes. Pirate groups emerged in the chaos of transition, preying on vulnerable worlds. There were diplomatic incidents as cultures with vastly different values tried to work together. Old grudges from centuries of conflict didn't disappear overnight, but there were victories too. Joint research projects discovered new technologies that no single species could have developed alone. Trade networks based on fair exchange rather than hierarchical tribute-enriched worlds that had been poor for generations. The unified military meant that small species no longer had to fear conquest by larger neighbors. And slowly, carefully, the Coalition explored the question of consciousness transfer. The beings they had freed from the Devourers remained in Coalition space, their consciousness now housed in bodies cloned from their original genetic material, or, when that wasn't available, in synthetic forms. They were traumatized, damaged, but alive, and they provided warnings about threats in deep space that the Coalition would never have known about otherwise. 1 year after the battle, on the anniversary of the victory, the Coalition held its first memorial service. Every species participated in their own way. Humans lit candles. Korgal performed warrior chants. Valthari created light sculptures. Enderan sang harmonies that made the station itself resonate. Admiral Suji Choi gave the keynote address. We gathered to remember those who gave everything, so that we could have this chance. Not just a chance to survive, but a chance to be better. They died fighting side by side, human and alien. Former enemies united against a common threat. They showed us what's possible when we look past our differences and work toward a shared future. She paused, looking out at the thousands of beings assembled. The Devourers are still out there. We will face them again. But we'll face them together as equals, as partners, as friends. And when that day comes, we'll win again, because that's what we do now. We win together. The crowd erupted in cheers, roars, humming harmonies, and expressions of approval from species that had no vocal cords. The sound was chaotic and beautiful. Captain Minho Park stood with Commander Brack watching the celebration. The massive Korgal warrior had become an unlikely friend. I never imagined this, Brack admitted. When I entered that arena to fight you, I thought I was defending Korgal honor. I thought you were arrogant and needed to be humbled. Now I see that you were trying to teach us something. That strength without wisdom is just violence. You taught us something too, Minho replied. We spent 250 years perfecting ourselves in isolation, but we lost something in that isolation. We forgot what it was like to struggle alongside others, to fight for something bigger than ourselves. You reminded us why we came back to the stars. not to show off what we'd achieved, but to share it with people who could appreciate it. That evening, Jiwon received word that the Coalition Council had voted unanimously. They wanted her to become the first Supreme Coordinator of the Coalition. She was surprised they hadn't chosen Soren. Ambassador Soren recommended you, Hana told her. He said you represented what the Coalition was meant to be, someone who had the strength to fight but chose diplomacy first, someone who could make hard decisions but never forgot the cost. Jiwon looked out at Earth from her apartment window. The planet that had once sealed itself away from the galaxy now welcomed that galaxy home. Ships from dozens of worlds filled orbit. She could see construction happening on new orbital platforms, joint projects between human and alien engineers. Tell the Council I accept, she said quietly, but only on one condition. The title is temporary, 5 years maximum. Then someone else takes over. The Coalition can't be built around individuals. It has to be built on principles. They'll agree to that, Hana said. 1 year after humanity broke its silence, the galaxy was transformed. The old Galactic Council, with its rigid hierarchies and ancient power structures, was gone. In its place, the coalition of free worlds grew stronger every day. It wasn't perfect. It faced constant challenges. But it represented something the galaxy had never known: true equality among sapient species. At the monument on Earth, a child approached. She was the daughter of a human mother and a Valthari father, one of the first of a new generation that would grow up in this changed galaxy. She looked up at the names carved in stone, hundreds of thousands of individuals who had died to make her existence possible. Why did they fight? She asked her parents. Her human mother knelt beside her. They fought so that you could have a better future, so that you would never have to know what it was like to be treated as less than someone else, just because of what species you were born as. Did they win? The child asked. Her Valthari father's compound eyes focused on his daughter with love. They gave us the chance to win. Now it's up to us to make sure their sacrifice meant something. The child placed a small flower beside the thousands already there. Above, the sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that reminded humanity why they had reached for the stars in the first place. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to find others to share the universe with. Humanity had stayed silent for 250 years. Then they spoke, and everything changed. Not through force, not through conquest, but through the simple act of offering a better way and letting others choose to follow. The story was far from over. The Devourers would return. New challenges would emerge. The Coalition would face crises that tested everything it stood for. But the foundation had been laid. Dozens of species working together, learning from each other, building something greater than any of them could achieve alone. And somewhere in the deep darkness of space, on ships carrying mixed crews from a dozen different worlds, young beings who would never have met under the old system worked side by side. They were the future, a future that was unpredictable, chaotic, challenging, and full of possibilities. The silence had ended. A new voice sang in the galaxy, harmonized from 47 different species, all of them equal, all of them free. And the universe listened.